Sports stories from the 419 in Northwest Ohio, brought to you by a voice you know. It's time to go around the area and around the Hearn.
Welcome into a special edition of Around the Hearn. They're all special at this point, right? Because they're all talking about the fall. Get high school sports underway already. Soccer getting started. Volleyball as well as a lot of hot teams already. Cross country getting out and getting the runs in between the raindrops. Soccer kind of making that same effort because there have been a lot of things that have been rained or stormed out already. But high school football taking center stage today. We talked to the coaches from the Western Buckeye League, about half, as we journey on towards week number one. Kicks off on a Thursday night, handful of games in the area. Looking forward to Columbus Grove and Pandora-Gaboa. Get to call that one alongside Chase Detro and Abe Escamilla and Dave Bonsigna on WCOQ Radio, as the Columbus Grove Bulldogs have struggled when they've gone to Pandora to take on the PG Rockets. But Andy Schaefer, who you heard last week, kind of talked about that, and a lot of great conversations that he and I have. I don't know how many of them that I'm allowed to even talk about, but terrific dude, and a big thanks to him and Michelle Mag for being on the show last week. Unfortunately, the Lady Titans fell in their opener. They were running clocked by Anthony Wayne, who's expected to be a very good team in Northwest Ohio and probably on the state level. Lady Titans get back in action Wednesday night, tonight, if you're listening to this, and then they play again on Saturday. They go to Perrysburg on Wednesday, and Saturday they're home early. It's kind of a neat thing. At the turf in Ottawa, they are playing the Columbus Grove Bulldogs for just the second time in school history. Bulldogs coming off a 1-1 tie against Miller City. And out there on the grass in Glandorf, they're doing Build Your Own Burger Day. You can put everything on it. You can even put bologna. I don't know why you'd want to, but you can. It's kind of a neat thing because the boys will be in action. Already saw them last week with their 1-1 tie in the battle for the gavel against Kalida. Unfortunately for the Titans, fortunately for the Wildcats, they were able to win the shootout that ensued afterwards and get the gavel that they're now playing for. Like I said, a lot of things we'll get into over the next couple of weeks. Hopefully you have a lot of big guests on the show talking about the fall season, and you never know who's going to stop by. But 5 Western Buckeye League coaches are on their way. That is when we come back here on Around the Hearn. Are you ready for the fall weather? Perhaps you're thinking about taking one last drive with the family before the weather changes. Lee Kinsel at 650 West Irvin Road in Van Wert should be your first stop, as their knowledgeable sales staff can help you find the right family vehicle to travel in comfort and style. Or maybe you're just looking for a tune-up on your current model. The automotive experts at Lee Kinsel can help with that too. Recognized by General Motors as a top 30 auto technician in the nation, Tyson Boroff and the crew at Lee Kinsel will take care of what you need today. Chevrolet, together, let's drive. Now to Hardin County now, talking about the Kenton Wildcats who open up against Eastwood. Zach turned nice enough to join me, and we talked for a while about kind of the landscape of the league. But one thing is for sure, I mean, you guys open up with Eastwood, Zach, but it is going to be a fascinating year in the Western Buckeye League, which kind of outside of what people think of one or two teams, seems like everything could kind of be a toss-up.
Yeah, I think anytime you go to battle in the WBL every week, just with the coaches and the communities and the players, it's a battle. And, I think it's one of the best small school football leagues and, not only Northwest Ohio, but in the whole state of Ohio. I think our quality of coaching and quality of players is, top notch. And I think anytime you're in those competitive environments, anything can happen. It's very similar to what you would see in, a big-time college football or big-time college football conference. And, any Friday night, anybody can beat anybody. And, high school is a lot about momentum and a lot about, can you steal the momentum early and can you hold it and, do all those kind of things. So I'm really excited. I think this is going to be a great year for the WBL. I'm just excited to go coach against great, competitors in the league and great head coaches and, kind of see where the chips fall and see where we stack up.
We've talked about this before, but I absolutely love the coverage that you guys get. Sean Blevins does an amazing job. I like to talk to him kind of as a prep before I get to talk to you. His big thing is your summer ended up going pretty well. I mean, you guys have just an absolutely phenomenal run in the 7-on-7 tournament. How are you looking at being able to kind of utilize some things that you found out during the summer about those kids this fall?
Yeah, this is probably our most successful summer we've had in quite some time. And, I think the last time we even won it 7-on-7 was like 2019. So that says a lot as far as our competitiveness and where we were in competition wise. But I think Chris Howell came and talked to me from the Lyman News, and he kind of asked that question. He goes, how does 7-on-7 prep you? And I said this: I don't know if it preps everybody, but it sure preps our program because of what we do and our identity on offense and those kind of things. So, as far as what we kind of learn, who we can count on and who can make plays for us, and who can go up and get a ball when we need it, and who can get open. And at the end of the day, that's the name of the game for us. We have to have guys that know how to get open and know how to create space. And, we kind of discovered that this summer. You got to play some really good competition. We played Harvest Prep in the state tournament. We played Kirkland. We played, we went to Marshall and played a school out of Charleston, West Virginia. That was, I think they were the state champions the year before. And we played Morgantown, who's like the biggest school in West Virginia, I was told. So, as far as, getting caliber athletes and caliber competition, it gave us an idea of, who we are as competitors too, and how we face adversity. And I think the number one thing I took away over everything, Mike, was we have a group of kids that are competitive and they want to win and they want to push themselves to win. And I think that's the biggest piece. Anytime you have that, you have a shot. I say this all the time. I remember the past couple of years, looking at kids and we lose a game and they'd kind of be snickering or laughing. And they used to have that competitive drive. And, even in 7-on-7, when we would lose, a game in the final, they were mad. They were upset and they were ready to go again. And I think you have that, you have a chance. And you just have to have that competitive drive. You have to have that competitive edge. If you don't have that, you're never going to be very good at anything. And, as a coach, who is competitive, you enjoy that and you cherish it and you're happy to see it. So I think it's the number one thing we took away. We have a group of competitors who like to compete and like to go, and their expectation is to win.
It had to be a nice thing too, because with 7-on-7 running game really not a thing, to look over and see Kirtland in something other than that Maryland eye.
Yeah, they still jumped into it a little bit. Offensively, 7-on-7 is probably not their game, but I will tell you, they were the most fundamentally sound defense and the most physical defense I've seen in a long time in 7-on-7. Their safeties were, they would attach to you, and they were very, very impressive as far as a physical and just fundamentally sound team and what they did. I was blown away by how well their safeties were able to, just attach the routes and stay on top of routes and still drive on. They're the real deal, and there's a reason they do what they do every year and how successful they are. And Coach Liberti does a great job with them. And his son's going to be a stud. He was all 6'3", 210. So he's going to be a force.
Should have just asked him if he wants to move out to Kenton.
I'd have a room for him.
Not that you're recruiting or anything, but ask him. We'll find a transfer portal for you.
Yeah, he get a little NIL money.
One of the big things that I've heard about as I talked to a lot of Kenton people earlier in the summer, and kind of a lot of it probably on the back of this, was about maybe the quarterback competition you have, because you know what you've got in Blaine Bushong. He's a tremendous athlete at quarterback and coming into his senior year. Do you kind of look at it and go, Xavier Gaiman's going to be a big one? You kind of said in the Kenton paper about, Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick, anything happens and all that, but to kind of be able to bring him along with a guy like Blaine.
Yeah, the thing I told those guys from day one is, your competitors against each other, your job's to push each other, but also your job's to love each other and take care of each other and make each other better as teammates. And they've taken that on really well. I think they each bring their own different attribute. I will say, Blaine's athleticism and just his gamer mentality is really good. There's some things he has to fine tune. He has to understand some things a little bit better, but he's getting there. And, with Xavier, his overall focus and his drive is something that's really impressive. I don't know if I've ever coached a kid with that focus or drive to that extent. Him and Maddox McFarland both have that, but I think that's the thing that helps him. He's learning and he's developing, and going from 8th grade to varsity it's a different game. And there's some times in 7-on-7 that he's done really, really well, and I think he's going to be a great one. I really think he's going to be a great kid for our program and do a lot of great things in our program. it's just, as game reps and things come along, he'll get better and he'll improve, and he'll always have that, work ethic to get better, just like Blaine does. And, you just got to kind of work them both and develop them both and make sure they're both ready to go. And, whoever's number is called, they'll be ready.
You've got a sophomore class that started in the Developmental Football League, and I read a lot about this. And kind of to piggyback, you're talking about them being mad about losing. How much kind of with those two things of the kids coming around, getting the mentality, and then being able for you to see them grow from kind of the beginning, planting those seeds, and all of those things come together, you kind of look at it and say, okay, maybe people aren't paying enough attention to us. We're going to do what we do, but maybe you should be watching out for Kenton.
Yeah, I mean, we can't really focus on that. That's not something, that's going to drive us. One conversation we've had a lot as a team, our motto is pound the rock. And, our number one goal is to get better every single day. So we got to focus inward, and we got to focus on who we are and how we come to practice every day with the right mental makeup and the right mentality that we're going to get better and we're going to be mentally focused. And if we do those things, everything else is going to come into play, and everything else is going to fall into place. So, we're in position to, be successful on the field, and that's what ultimately we want. As far as sophomore class, our sophomore class is, I think we have 21 sophomores, which is by far the biggest class in our high school. And those kids they've grown up playing, Kenton football. And I think, the biggest thing about the Developmental Football League and our youth program is we put a huge emphasis on being a Kenton football player. In our summer camp, we make them sing rah rah for Kenton every single day. And we explain to them, this is what we play when we score a touchdown on Friday night. And this is what you want to hear when you're on the field on Friday night. We talk about, just being a part of Kenton football and what that means, and, the tradition. And, I think those are things that, are important to small communities, and you have to do that, and you have to have those conversations. Fortunately for us, I think we have good numbers coming. Our eighth grade class is, 26 kids, and, every class below that's 20 plus. And, it's something that hasn't happened since, I haven't got those classes yet, but those classes have been building, since I became the head coach, just because of the emphasis we put on the youth and making sure kids are out. And, the one thing I'm really proud about with our Developmental Football League is, almost all of our coaches are alumni. They all played for Kenton football. They all understand what Kenton football is about and what it is. And, they build that, that trying to tradition with the kids where, it's important to them, and they want them to know it's important. And I think that's something that's, huge for a small community like us to, have that pride and have that, proud to be a Wildcat motto from a young age. So, our sophomore class is one of the first ones, and they've always been very successful in football. And, I think the thing I like about them the most is they don't expect to lose. They don't expect to fall short. They expect to win, and they understand what it takes to win. And, it's guys like Maddox McFarland. Another kid that really sticks out to me is Carson Gordon, who's just a scrappy, tough football player. Gary Phipps, who's a scrappy, tough football player. And then you have some kids who are developing and learning and growing, like a Landon Hunsker, who's, he didn't play a ton, or Carson Spring, who didn't play until the 7th and 8th grade on those teams, but they've worked their tail off every single day. And now they're right on the cusp of playing varsity football because of who they are and what they believe, and, buying into that, proud to be a Wildcat motto.
You talk about tradition, and one of the traditions that I love that you guys have, I'm hoping maybe you can kind of explain to people your view on it and the importance on it. It's something you guys have put in called the Champions Club. What does that mean to you to kind of be able to – because I read one of the big things is you have 24 kids in this. It's a 3.0 community service and always improving, of just kind of being able to show them the overall, not just necessarily what it means to be a Kenton football player, but kind of what it means to be a human being in that program.
Yeah, I think it's one of the biggest things. You hit the nail on the head. We've always had good kids, but you try to grow and develop as many good kids as you can. And I think the one thing I've seen over the years, we've gotten more and more and more. And I think the Champions Club does help with that, because it makes kids come to lifting every day, or it gives them something, So to be a part of the Champions Club, you have to have 90% attendance in the weight room in the spring. You have to have a 3.0 GPA. You can't be late to school more than 2 times. You have to improve your lift And there's one more thing. Oh, disciplinary actions. You can't have you have to have less than so many disciplinary actions in school. And, the first year we did it, we had I think 14 kids. So this is year 3 and we're up to 24. And, it's really fun when they get $100 worth of a Kenton football apparel. And, it's really cool because when they get that stuff and they start putting it on, they wear it, all the other kids are like, I kind of want that football apparel. That apparel's way nicer than the stuff you just hand out to everybody. So it kind of, gives them a little bit of a carrot there at the end, to put that time in. And, ultimately we get what we want is getting better every single day and, developing leaders and things like that. But I think it's something I picked it up from a coach up in Cleveland at a clinic. And I thought that was just something really cool and something we should bring back. So it's not anything I thought of. I stole it from somebody else. But
No, you homaged it from someone else.
Yeah, however you want to say it. Yeah, it's something that our kids have really bought into, though. And, they are always asking me, am I still on track to be in the Champions Club? Am I on the Champions Club? And I think it's something that's really good for our program and really good for our kids, just to have the kids who are doing the right things. And, we talk about the standard in our program is best. We don't ask you to do anything else but your best. So those kids are all giving us their best every single day, and it's good to see them reward it.
As we sit here, we've got 11 days before the kickoff, almost exactly 11 days to the minute.
Mm-hmm.
But you go to Eastwood. I've heard recently that Eastwood, their kids are pretty fired up to take on the Wildcats. Early start of the season. How are you feeling now, looking towards your date with Eastwood?
We did some good things in our scrimmage on Friday. Still a lot of things to improve on. I think our kids and the biggest thing I see are our kids are just hungry and they want to go play. And sometimes I have to remind them, and I have to remind, some of our coaches too. In this day in society, you go play AAU or you go play travel baseball or whatever else, or even other high school sports, you get to play the games a lot more than you practice. And football, you have to practice. Prepping is the number one most important thing in high school football or football in general. You have to prepare if you want to win. So, sometimes getting them to pull it back a little bit and understanding we still have 11 days. We have to put more hay in the barn. We have to prepare a little bit harder and a little bit better. But I know they're excited for the challenge and they're excited to go out there and, prove to themselves and, prove to, anyone who may be watching that we're ready to go and, we're capable of doing the things that we need to do to be successful. And, I think we have great leaders that are in our program that, have kept our kids accountable and on track. And I think that's helped a lot. And I think they're just ready to go. They're ready to go, play the game and kick off the season and, travel up to Eastwood and play that game on August 22nd.
I know I've asked you, and I ask coaches this all the time right before the season, but you get to 650, 655 on the 22nd.
Mm-hmm.
Are you just standing there butterflies, or is it just, hey, let's go. Let's get this ball kicked off?
I think it depends. I would say sometimes how we practice during the week may give me more butterflies than other times. But there's a couple times I just felt like our kids have been ready and you're just ready to go kick the ball off and go play. I think with this group, it's going to be, let's go kick the ball off and let's go play. Let's go let them cut it loose. And I think one huge attribute to this team, besides, just being, competitive and having that competitive edge, is they love football. I love coming to practice every day because I have kids like Junior Wright or Alex Rogel or Jaden Mustang, Maddox McFarlane, Xavier Gammon. They love football. They love to go play. They love to be a part of it. Maddox Hummel loves to be a part of it. Neil Huff loves to be a part of it. They love to just go play football. And I think that's the biggest thing. When you love it and you have that competitive edge, it's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to August 22nd. I don't know how I'll be. I know I'll probably be a lot more calm than I have been in the past, just because I know who our kids are and I know what they're capable of and I know what's in their heart and what their competitive drive is. So I'll be ready to go. I'll be excited and excited to see what they can do and excited to see them compete.
Well, I hope that you and the boys all survive all of your Jim Homan encounters.
Yeah, Jim's a great guy, man. He's the epitomizes proud to be a Wildcat. He just loves Kenton. He loves Kenton sports, and he's a great friend of mine, and he's been a huge support system to me, and I appreciate all he does.
Well, he's my scouting report until I see you in October.
Yeah, I'll tell him not to give too much away.
I don't think he knows how not to. I can read that, man. But I wish you guys all the success. I'm always excited when we get to have a conversation, and I can't wait till we get to do it again in October.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
That's Zach Zerda, the head coach at Kenton. More when we return. I promise, it's on the way. Are you in Spencerville and looking for a place to eat before the Bearcats play? Well then, head to my place, 128 North Broadway, for deep-fried mushrooms, chili cheese fries, the best pie around, and soup of the day. If you're in a hurry and just want to order some to go, you can give Doug and his staff a call at 419-647-4062, and they'll have it ready for you. My Place Restaurant at 128 North Broadway in Spencerville, a proud supporter of Bearcat Athletics. The name of the top will be different for Defiance football this year, but it's not a name that is unfamiliar to Defiance High School and in the new head coach and an assistant and a graduate. Travis Cooper's now replacement in Steve Rittenour. It's still got to be pretty cool just to hear Defiance head coach Steve Rittenour at this point, I would think.
It is. It's still a little new. I'm still getting used to it. You don't really start out thinking you're ever going to be a head coach. But, the time was right. And I think I can bring something to the program. It's still a new, and I'm finding out every day the responsibilities that go along with it. I'm excited. I'm grateful. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what Team 125 can accomplish this year.
Well, and you sort of escaped for a couple of years after you graduated in 94. You kind of go out on your own, go out to Middletown and go to Miamisburg, come back. What did it mean to you, though, just to kind of be able to come back to that culture in 01?
You don't start out. I never, this is going to sound funny, but I like a lot of people that grow up in small towns. I never wanted to come back home. I never wanted to teach at Defiance High School. And I wanted to get as far away from my parents as possible. For the last 20 years, I've lived 6 houses down from my mom and dad on the same street that I grew up in. And I actually taught U.S. history in the same class that I took U.S. history from my teacher that I had. So it's awesome. I mean, sometimes it's a curse in the fact that, not so much anymore, but when I first moved back to Defiance, people remember you as the young man that you were. And it was very difficult in the fact that people had, the old Stevie. And now, after 25 years, I'm starting to get students, children of my first couple years, students are starting to roll through. But overall, it's really a blessing, and I'm really honored and grateful to have this opportunity. I've gotten to coach some second-generation kids now. I've got to coach, my own daughters. I got to coach my friends' kids. So I'm grateful. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the teachers and my coaches at Defiance. You can't live in a place like Defiance and not have it. It's part of the DNA. It's part of me, and I'm proud of where I'm come from, and I'm proud I get to give back. And it's an honor and a privilege to lead the football team here.
And if anything ever goes wrong, you can just walk up to Jerry Beauty and say, well, you're the guy that keeps hiring me.
Yeah, well, I can also blame him for teaching me because, he's a Hall of Fame coach and he's a Hall of Fame guy. And, I would be remiss if I'm telling you, and I know it's a cliche, I would not be here if it wasn't for, Coach Beauty and all the lessons that he taught me. And he gave me a shot to come back. He took a shot on I wasn't the greatest student, but he saw something in me a long time ago and gave me the opportunity, and I'll be forever grateful. And I know if he was on the other line, he said, I did all of this, but there's always going to be a drive, and it's different. When I first was an assistant coach, you tried not to get him to stop yelling at you at practice. And now I realized all the sacrifices, that he did for for all of us. You realize the sacrifices that the people do, whether it's, your parents or your teachers. And, as you get, I'll be 50 here in a couple months, and you start looking back and you realize, everything that's happened to you, you don't get here alone. And, I just want to make sure that, and I told them this, that you're going to get everything I got at Defiance High School. I'm going to give you everything I have, and I'm going to make sure our kids give you everything you had. And I don't know how many games you're going to win. I don't know how many games you're going to lose, but I do know we're going to be, we're going to be one of the hardest working teams in the league, and we're going to go out there and we're going to fight. We're going to smack you a little bit, and we're going to see, just where that leads us. But there's certain things that I learned from Jerry that you can't ignore. It's blocking and tackling, and the great equalizer is always going to be hitting.
I know that the easy answer is nothing comes easy, but is it for you a little bit easier mentally? You've been the track coach there for quite some time, of becoming the head of a program, of now understanding, all right, it's a shock when a lot of guys go from being an assistant to a head coach for the first time, but with the football program of, all right, I've been a head coach, I understand a little bit more of the things that are going to have to come from me and come my way.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a big change. I mean, yes, coaching, I think it's real important. I think I'm very fortunate that I started out as a position coach. Then I bounced around. I coached the defensive line. Then I coached the linebackers. Then I became a defensive coordinator. Track, it definitely prepares me. It's a whole different, I would say the expectations, obviously are a lot greater as a football coach. But, oh, yeah, I mean, I definitely without the head track coach, because, people don't realize that about 80% of the stuff you do as a head coach has nothing to do with coaching. Whether you're dealing with, parents not knowing what the scrimmage is at home or away, you're dealing with uniform issues. You're dealing with, I was talking to, Casey, over at LC, and he was asking me, what's some of the things, and he was talking about just some of the things that are on his plate as a head coach that has nothing to do with coaching. That's really what people don't get, is coming up with all the other stuff that really it comes with the job, but if you don't do it, like I get people that want to know, hey, can we send a couple football players to help out over here? Well, if I say no, it's going to reflect not only the football team, but it's also going to reflect, Defiance City Schools. And we love doing that stuff. Don't get me wrong. I love doing that. That's part of being here at Defiance, is giving back to our community. But, people just don't realize. And I do definitely, I think every day that helped me. And also, you've got to be able to coach your assistant coaches as well. When you're a position coach, you're focused on defensive line. I don't care what the DB's doing. Is our defensive line getting across the line of scrimmage? Are we staying in our pass rush lane? And now you got to worry about everything. You got to worry, and then you got to worry about, is the quarterback sitting, I'm watching video for the first time. I'll be honest, I haven't really watched a lot of offensive video in the last 25 years, because I was worried about the linebackers and defense, and that's a little different for me, watching the offensive video and looking and seeing and, seeing what our effort is, what our attitude is. So, it definitely prepares you, but you're still not ready for, the size and the scope of being the football coach.
You guys have been on stretches, 25 wins in the last 4 years, best stretch in a while. Defense is giving up less than 20 points in a game, almost 20 years, almost back to your early days coming back. How important has it been to just continue to get the kids in the right mindset of, we're not going 3-7. We're not having people come in here and say, oh, we're just going to beat Defiance and go home. We're going to make our mark, and if they beat us, they're going to earn it.
Travis did a great job of bringing that mentality back. Travis and I coached together, back at the early days. Back, I think when Travis got here, it was like 03, 04. So, it's in your DNA. If we're going to be a successful football team, we have to play great defense. We've got to be a great defense, and we've got to be able to be a physical offense. And I think Travis did a great job of reestablishing some of that. And I think he understood that's what makes Defiance special. That's just the type of football we have to play. Every year's new challenges. Not a lot of people. Joey started out. Robinson. He's the all-state linebacker. Started out as a nose guard, and then we tried to find him. Start out, and then we moved him to outside linebacker. And it was only because of an injury that we actually moved him to inside linebacker. And then. And I think we've been lucky to do that. We're still going through that process right now of finding some identity. But yeah, Clay does a great job. When I was a defensive coordinator, Clay was up in the box, and I got to come down, and Clay and I share the same vision, and both of those sort of come from we want to be fast, and we want to be aggressive, and we want to smack you. And I think it is. I think I don't think our kids know all those stats that you just said here, but I think they know that we take pride in our defense, and we want to be a physical football team on the offensive side. So, and like I said, I think Travis did a great job of bringing that, and I want to add, probably we want to add a couple different flavors to the mixture, but we want to keep that same. We want to keep that same product on the field on Friday night.
I have to give all the credit in the world to the Crescent News and Aaron Gross because he came up with that. I just stole it. People will talk a lot about what you guys lose, and obviously for good reason at the top, and the production you have to replace, obviously, with Brez at quarterback. But a couple of my guys that I just love to watch, Jordan Wright is, I feel like a kid that could have a big year, and then you've got Chase Comiso, obviously, in your backfield. Who are kind of some of those other kids where you look at it and go, this might not be a name that people are talking about, but they will be?
Well, I think you got to start up front with the big ones, we used to call them the big uglies, but these guys aren't really ugly. Goose Inahosta, he's got to have a great year for us. He's going to go both ways. Tyler Doden-Kiesling, who's probably one of our best. And I challenged them today. We went up against LC. And LC is LC. I mean, they're a program. And I told, I appreciate Casey coming down, and they were a program back when I played, and Tyler got to see some things that most people. You got to see, some real. They got some football players that will challenge you over at LC, and Tyler needed that, and I challenged him after the scrimmage, saying, "Hey, listen, there's nobody really on this football team that can challenge you like they did. So you've got to raise your level of expectations. What's your standard is." And he's responded really well to that, and I think. Another one that's going to help us out is Kelton Gibbs. Gibbs is going to help us out on, fill in some spots on offense. He's going to help us out on defense. And there's some other ones that I think are coming. We've got to just keep working, and we've got a couple days here. We've got to really start, polishing the stone, so to speak. But, I think, Jack Hines, he's another one. He's going to be our center. He's got, Stevie Huffman was solid at us. I mean, he's just solid. I played with his dad, but, last year, that up front, that offensive line, those guys played together for like 3 years. And you can't replace, the experience, and that's our guys have to mature very fast if we're going to be successful. When you lose all those guys, we've got some guys here that need to grow up in a hurry. And I know that probably doesn't sound great, but we've got some sophomores that can't play like sophomores against Napoleon, or it's going to be a bad night for us. They have to play older than they are, and they don't get that. We've been working at that, but coaches will say you can't replace Joey Robinson, you can't replace Anthony, you're not going to replace Brez and his experience, But we got two guys that are battling, and they're doing a great job. We're just going to have to. I'm excited for the scrimmage coming up on Thursday because I want to see, I know the kids have been practicing hard all week. It's been hot, and we've had our ups and downs, and they battled through it. But I'm really curious to see, are we taking the next steps that we're going to have to take for us to compete not only against Napoleon, but in the very tough and physical WBL conference.
You know, I heard what you said about having to take some of the kids with you when you went to do one of the podcasts.
Yeah.
I'm surprised at this point you're allowed to use the name of that school as close as you are to this game.
Yeah, we start, we call it some other things that will remain nameless, but, it's not a rivalry. Napoleon and Defiance, it's the same people. My wife has family in both, it's the same town. That's why rivalry is a rivalry. I mean, Cleveland is Pittsburgh. If you just flip the names, you wouldn't know the difference.
Oh,
And I have the utmost respect for Napoleon. I've got a couple friends over there I talk to, just a couple. But
depends on if you win or
that's what
not.
makes them, yeah. Well, they'll let me know. And especially today, I think with kids talking and stuff, it can be great or it can be worse. I know for us, they were like an unknown foe back when we played. We knew where they were. They had the red helmets. And I just think with being 15 miles away from each other, the town takes a lot of pride in their sport. I know that, I actually talked to Senator Rob McCauley, and I asked him if it's true that Napoleon, do they have a sign that says, what have you done to beat Defiance today? And he didn't really say yes, and he really didn't say no, which I took as, okay, you do. I know their in is like a foot bigger than RD in the football field. You don't get that. I mean, that's beautiful. I love that stuff.
That is what makes high school sports great.
Yeah, we're getting close enough that it's time. I mean, it's time. I mean, it's just, where it is, and you run into each other. You see it at family reunions. You got my buddies talking, and we've got guys that will watch this game that live in, Seattle, Washington. They'll be asking, we got guys all over that will ask about it. And I'm looking forward to it. It is getting pretty close where we're going to stop, you never stop respecting your foe, but at the same time, there's got to be some mutual, just admiration and respect along with some, not so admirable traits, and I'm sure Coach Schriner will tell you the same stuff. That's what makes the rivalry, and we're just honored and privileged to take part in it.
Well, I am excited to see you guys. It's a shorter trip to St. Mary's for me on September the 12th than it is going to be for you.
So it's going to be a great game for us. It always is.
It always
going
is.
Down
that
there.
game is always crazy.
They are, them, Wapakoneta. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I remember in the old stadium, they would have all the footballs from the WBL championships they won. And it would line up the old, by the old catwalk on the downtown stadium, and as you're going out for pregame, both as a player and a coach, I remember looking up there and, they're Wapakoneta and St. Mary's, Wapakoneta lately, but St. Mary, they are the torchbearers. And that, let's be honest, if you want to win the WBL, it goes through those two schools, along with some others. And, Defiance, we've always made. If we want to be there, this is the football, and this is the football teams that we have to compete against. They're well coached. They've got, football is a big part of their culture down there and those towns. And it's, like I said, it's the WBL. There's no weeks off in the WBL, and they've got great coaches. It's a well-coached team, a league, and there's a lot of physical. It's a lot of physical football teams, and you got to be pretty tough to play in the WBL. And like I said, it goes through Wapakoneta and St. Mary's, and it's always a battle going down there. You're going to get a tough crowd. You're going to get it's going to be a hard-hitting, tough football game, and that's like I said, I'm excited to get the season going. I'm also excited to just see the games and the improvements that we're going to make, this upcoming football season.
Well, good luck starting next week.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
That's Defiance head coach Steve Rittenour. We've got even more on the way. Celina Fi Optics offers high-speed internet service and customer-managed Wi-Fi, as well as local customer service and reliable technicians in your community to help you get the best out of your telephone, internet, and streaming services. Glandorf Telephone, Celina Telephone, and Celina Fi Optics are here to service you so you can enjoy your favorite shows and so much more while getting the best deal available. Check them out online at glantel.net and Celina-tel.com today and see what they can do for you.
Talking to Celina football now. Big couple of weeks to open up the season at St. Henry, at Wapakoneta. Brennen Bader now. You guys have just a schedule that is just unrelenting. No matter where you go, you have the massive part of the WBL, but St. Henry is a nice addition. How did that come about?
Yeah, that matchup came a couple years ago when the Versailles our original week one opener for, I think, 10, 12 years. When we parted ways with them, it was kind of a mutual thing. But anyway, long story short, it was kind of several years in the process. Last year we had to pick up Columbus South just for a bridge year. And then I think it'll be a really good kind of rivalry week one, close proximity. Should get a good crowd being week one, a MAC WBL school. So a lot of excitement, I think, for this matchup.
I always figure that's got to be the easiest thing to be able to sell. Well, at least for 2 years, we don't have to travel far.
Right, yes.
And they don't have to travel far, so nobody has to complain. You guys are coming off a 6-5 year last year. You go to the state semis 2 years ago. How much has that helped your development with those younger guys of being able to kind of plug them in? You've lost a lot of pieces, but to just kind of see the overall growth of the program.
Yeah, really last 4 or 5 years, it's kind of been, overall trending in the right direction. And certainly the 2 years ago, that run certainly built even more momentum. So we really like where our culture's at. We got a good group of kids with, high character. They got a strong work ethic. And, the coaches speak. We just try to, do our best, every single day that we come in and try to just get a little bit better. And I think our kids over the last several years have really bought into the process and letting the results be the results, whatever they may be, but concentrating more on the day-to-day and the effort you put in each day, each rep. Really proud of the guys for buying into that and really like where we're at right now.
Kind of feels like the old joke of, I'm just here to try not to mess it up.
That's exactly right. So just stay out of the way and let them do what they do and just work hard at it.
Last couple of games last year, you guys were in that just battle with Wapak. You fall by a couple of points. Playoffs didn't exactly go the last couple of ways that you wanted. What do you learn more about your team? And obviously you don't want this, but in losses than you do in wins?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, absolutely you can. The one thing that's really try to look at is how do we respond after a loss or after a bad play for that matter. How do we respond to any adversity? That's always the challenge every year, and that's kind of the unknown going into every year is how mentally tough is your team going to be. If you get down 14 points at halftime, are you going to battle back or are you going to throw in the towel? So that's stuff we try to preach to our players and try to work through and throughout preparation, but you can't, very difficult to emulate games and when they don't go your way. So that's what we challenge our players with every single week is you got to respond to the adversity that's presented because it's inevitable. It's going to happen at some point during a game, and we got to be tough enough to overcome those things. So, playoffs or whatever it may be, big games, yeah, you certainly learn from those losses, and hopefully it builds tougher character at the end of the day.
You go through your off-season stuff, kids coming in, kids lifting, kind of getting with the mental part, the preparation. You go through 7-on-7. You go through now a week of practices. How are you feeling about where this team is?
Yeah, well, we just got a good group of kids that are working hard, led by a good group of seniors that have been doing this for 6 years or more. Pretty tight-knit group. There's not a lot of seniors, but they're very quality seniors, and they've played a lot of snaps over the last 3 years. So a lot of experience, and they've done a good job leading us. We'll have some young guys probably playing in some key roles or at least as a rotational basis for some depth. We'll see what the results are. But right now, throughout 2-a-days, I like our preparation. I like our mindset. I think that this group, these kids like playing football. They have a genuine passion for playing, and I think it shows up in practice. So hopefully that translates to Friday nights as well.
With going through all that and with being able to see these kids, some changes obviously up front and around from last year with losing some starters, are there some guys that are really kind of standing out to you where you say, okay, this guy is going to be this for us?
Yeah, I think, when, behind closed doors as the coaches meet, I think we, kind of think and say, you were optimistic about, this person or that person. We think this person can go do this or fill that role or whatever. But you really don't know until you get out there when the live bullets start flying. But, yeah, we think we have a couple of those. We think we have a couple of younger players that can certainly have an impact for us this year. And we're breaking in a new quarterback who played JV the entire year last year. Very cerebral kid, Parker Wink, very smart, mentally tough kid, very gritty. So I really like what he brings to the table. He's going to be a junior this year. So, that's reason for optimism. And like any team, it's all going to come down to how good are we in the trenches. And that's yet to be determined. But very excited for the year. I'm very optimistic. I don't know what that will result in as far as wins or losses, but certainly I think this group has the ability and potential to do some special things this year.
With being around the WBL, being kind of around what has been going on the last handful of years, Wapak obviously expect to be very good. I think the last time Caleb Moyer threw an interception, Obama was president. Are they, outside of them, kind of who do you see, besides you guys, obviously, in that kind of top echelon of the WBL?
Well, I think you gotta start with Wapak for what they've been able to do for the last decade or more with, under Coach Moyer. I mean, they're always a very physical team, disciplined team. They've won, how many WBL championships over the last decade. So, I mean, I think you always got to look to them first. I mean, they've been the most consistent team in that span probably. So, yeah, it starts there. But I don't know. Every week's a test. And, you can throw out the records and all of that. And, yeah, I really don't know. I know this. I know that, like you said at the beginning, we have a very challenging schedule at the beginning, but we love that. And I think we're on the road. If you count the two scrimmages, we're only home once in 7 weeks. It starts tonight. We have a scrimmage over at Allen East. And then next week we're at Coldwater, and St. Henry's away, Walpak's away. We get St. Mary's home, and then we're on the road for 2 more games. So the front half, we're going to be traveling a lot. So it's all about, how we get off the bus and are we ready to play once we step off the bus. So I think it's an opportunity more than anything else to maybe go, let's go prove ourselves is what we're telling the players. So we'll see if we're able to do that or not against some very good competition.
So basically you got a new athletic director and you just started immediately sending her gas bills.
Yeah, right. Correct. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure Kelly will love that.
I wish we were home a few more times, but, it is what it is. We don't control that, and, we'll do our best. And like I said, I think it's an opportunity more than anything else.
Well, and, of course, the one time that you are home, I know everybody will be hyped. September the 5th, when you get St. Mary's, that's always a fascinating game at your place.
Oh, I mean, yeah, the Cross Lake rivalry, it doesn't get any better than that. That's the game you always highlight no matter what. I mean, that's just a known. And they're, like always, they're going to be very good. They're going to be very physical. The list goes on and on. So get them week 3, but certainly that's certainly a team. You always circle the rivalry game, but we got to worry about St. Henry and Walpak first, and then go from there.
I'm always fascinated by the coach's thoughts on this because you see guys working harder, and I know one of your big things is do what's expected and then do some more. Who are some guys maybe going into the year that people aren't paying enough attention to that middle of the year they're going to go, man, we definitely should have known this kid's name before now?
Oh boy, I don't know. It's so hard to pinpoint that. Like I said, I think there's a collection of guys a collection of names that could potentially be like, oh yeah, this guy, he can be a player in this league. and on our team. But I can't pinpoint one guy right now. I think there's several that have that potential. Now, whether or not they reach that potential is yet to be determined. But I do think there's some guys in our locker room that could potentially, fill those voids that we had, or even do something, make their own names for themselves. So we'll just have to see. Time will tell. So I don't want to speculate too much on that, because everybody in our locker room has something to prove. So we'll just see what this season brings.
Hey, all of them is always a good answer.
All of them. Yeah, exactly. All of them. All of them have potential. Yeah.
Right. They're all going to be very good.
That's correct.
I'm always curious. I hear a lot about bulletin board material, and it's got to be kind of a hard thing because kids read everything, they see everything, they hear everything. Is that kind of still a thing of guys have that, maybe have something in your locker room, or are you just kind of at the point of the next thing is the next thing? They don't really care about anything else.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a one game, one day at a time thing. So, yeah, with social media and with kids, the kids have access to it, and, who knows what's going on with social media, what people are saying, but we tell them to hone in on what your preparation, hone in on what you do on the practice field. Talk doesn't mean anything, so don't give any team a reason for bulletin board material. And we don't like drama and distractions, and that's something we preach daily. And we don't need, anybody to circle us and say, hey, they said this, and give them any extra mojo going into it. So, I don't buy a lot of stock into the bulletin board material. It's just how do we prepare, Monday through Thursday during the week to get ready for Friday night.
So I shouldn't tell everybody what your burner account is?
No.
Well, I wish you guys luck. I look forward to seeing you in week 3, and I thank you so much for doing this.
Absolutely. I appreciate you, and love to be on your show anytime.
That's Brennen Bader talking to Celina football. We've got some more here in just a few.
The Scoop on Main in Glandorf, 136 South Main Street. We serve ice cream, coffee, breakfast, lunch, and delicious desserts. Thank you for voting us best ice cream in the county 2 years in a row. We have lunch options are salads, wraps, paninis, and seasonally we have homemade soups. Everything is sourced locally and made from scratch. We are open Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 7 a.m. till 9 p.m. Friday from 7 a.m. till 6 p.m. Saturday, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. and Sunday from noon to 9. Hours do change seasonally, so please follow us on Facebook or on our website. Our phone number is 419-538-5555.
Year number 30 of Ken Schriner at Ottawa Glandorf, coming off of a 6-6 year, got win 200. This is a big year for you guys, though, because anytime you lose 15 starters, I would imagine you guys are working hard over there right now to get ready for the season.
No doubt about it. We've got a lot of positions that need filled. We've got a lot of guys that need to prove themselves. So practices have been interesting. They've been fun. They've been competitive, and hopefully we're going to continue to get better. I'm sure that, we're still answering a lot of questions. We do have one more scrimmage. We get to travel to St. Henry tomorrow morning, and that's going to be a challenge for our guys, but we want to get as many guys on film right now, and then our coaches are going to sit down and evaluate and figure out who are the best guys that we've got with giving us a chance to win games, starting off with game 1 at Liberty Bend.
Last year, one of the best defenses in the league. Only Wapak has a better statistical year than you guys. You go 5-5 in the regular season, split your playoffs, returning a lot of guys on the defensive end, but where do you find the points at with losing a lot of your skill guys this season?
Well, it's going to be a challenge. Again, that's, these guys that are stepping into new positions and, getting on the field with varsity time. Really it starts with our quarterback. We're replacing a 3-year starter, and our starting quarterback right now is Carson Yeager. He's got a good arm. He's good size. He's 6'3", about 195 pounds. And, I think he's going to surprise some people. He can be physical when we want him to, but he can throw the long ball very well. We've got a good weapon on the outside that I'm sure everybody in our league is going to recognize. It's Deegan Miller. He's, again, 6'3". He's a track guy. He's super fast, and if you're not going to put a little help on him, we're going to hopefully be able to get him the ball, and he's going to make some damage for us as well. Our run game, as far as running backs, we've got a whole platoon of guys that we're trying to look at right now. It looks like it's going to be probably a two-man race with Gage Bellman and Trevor Rump right now in the backfield, but we could see 3 or 4 other guys in there as well. And again, early success is going to determine who gets those carries and who we ride in the long run.
Is it going to be kind of an odd thing, though, that you're not going to have Peyton Coleman turning around and handing to Vinny Brinkman?
It is. It's going to be different, but that's how we do it in high school. The kids graduate, and the guys that have been watching on the sideline, they're excited to get their opportunity. And I know Carson Yeager. Last year he had an opportunity to play in our final game against Shelby, and we were huge underdogs going into that game. And my goodness, we were leading the game in the third quarter, and probably had a lot of people on the edge of their seats. And Carson was doing a great job of leading our offense. So I think that gave him a good taste in his mouth, and I think he understands what needs to be done. He worked hard in the off season. He had a nice summer for us, and again, this is something that we're going to hopefully lean on.
Is that something you can look at, though, with those younger guys coming up of, hey, look what we were able to do. Nobody was saying that we had a chance to win this game. We were hanging in, just 1 or 2 kind of bad football plays, but we are going to be a very good, very solid, very sound football team, and we can do that every year.
No doubt about it, and that's really a credit to our coaches. We're battling a number of injuries, and our coaches don't sit around and complain about it. And unfortunately, we know that that's part of the game, and we've lost a couple guys, but you've got to still be ready to play. Your opponent isn't going to really feel sorry for you on the field, so you've got to make sure you get that next guy ready to go. And it's a challenge, and that's how we're approaching this season. Is we've got to, in a hurry, we've got to figure out who our starters are and who's going to give us the best opportunity for victory on the field.
At Perrysburg already in the can, you guys go to St. Henry like we talked about. Those seem like those are 2 pretty good scrimmages to get you ready to go to that long trip to LB.
No doubt, and that's on purpose. Back in the day when we started with Perrysburg, probably, I'll say 15 years ago, we got into that scrimmage. Number one, we wanted to travel. I wanted to travel to give our guys a chance on the bus and understand what it's like with an hour bus ride. Number 2 is an opportunity to play on turf. Back in those days, Perrysburg was one of the teams that around the area that had a nice stadium with turf, and wanted to give our guys a chance to do that. And number 3, to really get into some bigger school competition, because that's what we see in our league every single week. We see the big schools. We see, Wapak is bigger than us, St. Mary's. Basically, everybody in our league except for Bath and Kenton are bigger than us as far as numbers. But and then we scrimmage St. Henry, and how do you turn down the opportunity to battle with a program that has such a tradition? They've always got nice long length. They're athletic. They're super physical, and gives us really a good look at what we see in the WBL every week.
WBL over the last handful of years has been loaded with great special teams. You bring back Cooper Fisher. Is that reassuring to you to be able to have that steady force in your kicking game?
No doubt. Anytime you get a returner in the kicking game, you can maybe spend a little less time on, some of the little details that you normally have to do with a new guy. So, yeah, Cooper, we expect good things out of him. We expect him to be consistent for us and, be that kind of rock that we can lean on when we need those points.
You got a couple of long bus rides towards the end of the year. You go to Van Wert, go to Celina in back-to-back weeks. What's the thought process for you now on the bus? I mean, are you just kind of trying to relax and get your own mind right, or are you, trying to stay away from the kids' TikToks, or just kind of running through that final game plan?
Well, basically, kids are going to be kids. Back in the old days, and there are probably still some old school coaches that, the bus will be silent on the way to the game. I tell them, you can sit and talk to the guy that's next to you. We're not crawling over seats and, yelling and joking around, because everybody approaches how they prepare for a game or a competition differently. So we pretty much tell them, if you're on your phone, that's okay, but just keep the noise down to a mild roar is how I usually describe it. Prepare yourself, take a nap, whatever it takes, but get yourself ready to go once it's time for kickoff.
30 years in, long time for you at one place, and that's something that maybe I feel it gets overlooked because that's not really a thing that happens anymore. How special is Ottawa and Glandorf to you, and kind of what does that still mean to you to be able to walk out there
now on that beautiful turf field every Friday night?
No, it's been a great trip. It's been fun. It's been met so many neat people and so many people, great families, people that support athletics here at OG. That's probably one thing that a lot of people recognize from the outside looking in, and the families support us. And when as far as the kids go, the kids are hard workers. I think our kids will do everything you ask them to do. You put them out there in a tough situation, they're going to try and rise to the challenge as best they can. So the kids are hard workers. The parents are hard workers. They're accepting of what we do, and I appreciate the opportunity that I have every day to come here and work. It's a great facilities now. It's a great community, and we're hopefully it's a good run, and they keep me around for a while.
What's the one big key, kind of your takeaway going into the season, where you feel you guys are at, what you're specifically going to have to do for this to be successful?
Well, two things that we preach is, one, ball security is protect the ball. You cannot turn the ball over and be successful. And number two is dumb penalties. We generally are at the top of the league in least penalized or least penalty yardage. And, that's something that we identify as a key value for the team. So those two things are things that we preach, but, do your job, make sure that you're doing your job, and things will fall in place as well.
Well, I thank you so much. I love being able to cover your team. I'll see you guys in about a month, and I hope it's successful.
Appreciate it, Mike. Go Titans.
That's Kenton Schriner, the head coach in Ottawa, and more when we come back in just a couple minutes.
Whether you're looking for a place to party or just hang out with your friends, check out the Red Pig Inn at 1470 North Perry Street in Ottawa, a staple for barbecue since 1975 in Northwest Ohio. Check out their award-winning ribs, award-winning sauce, scratch recipes that include fish, steaks, burgers, pizza, and so much more. Entertainment nearly every single night, including the WZO Crew Zoo Crew show on Wednesdays. That's the Red Pig Inn, 1470 North Perry Street in Ottawa, 419-969-1002.
Talking St. Mary's football now with the fifth-year head coach of the Rough Riders in Bo Frye, and I'm happy that we get to do this for at least another 20 years as I've got it figured out.
As long as we keep winning, we'll be all right.
Yeah, I think you're going to be all right. Different kind of year for you guys. You lose a lot at the top, 22 kids with that pesky graduation. Are you just not able to find a class that maybe a kid didn't do as well in that you could bring back for a year?
Yeah, I think that we still have a good nucleus of kids that have been playing for a while. But, yeah, losing 22 seniors definitely makes the summer, these months, a lot harder on coaches. You have to do a lot more teaching, a lot more reviewing, a lot more walking, a lot more talking. But, yeah, I think we've still got a good nucleus left.
I think a big part of it is last year your sophomore class, now juniors, led a lot of what you guys did, whether it was Parker in the passing game or you look at what Taylor did on the defensive end. I think he's still tackling dudes from last year, but, how big of a group is that, or how important of a group is that to just be able to hit the ground running like that early on and not have to say as much to them and watch the other kids kind of glom around what they do because they see the work equals success?
Oh, 100%. Even on the offensive side of the ball, we return our quarterback and fullback in Aiden Meinerning and Caleb Schmidt. So whenever you have guys, we call them Friday night light guys, you expect those guys to show up to work every day, and they're doing a great job. So we're very lucky that we have those guys. It's just putting the people around them and getting those guys up to speed. That's where we're spending 90% of our energy.
You lose thousands of yards and nearly hundreds of touchdowns with the two guys in the backfield that did just a tremendous job over their 3 and 4 years. How did things kind of change a little bit, too, with talking about your lead back being different? Now, instead of having, and I mean this as a compliment, 3 guys who are a lot the same in how they run. They want to run violent. They want to run over you. And if they can run around you, fine. But now getting to be able to kind of give maybe more pitches to guys like Dylan Fink and try to get that edge speed in there.
Yeah, first off, I love Colton Mabry and Dom Osborne, and they were a big, big part of our offense last year. But yes, we are a lot faster this year. I just noticed I went back and watched our bath game from last year, and I thought, man, we were big and we were slow. So I think we're moving better this year, and our speed is just through the roof.
Because like I said, that I meant that as a compliment because I love those two kids, but they combined are a more violent backfield last year than maybe the finesse this year. And like you said, overall, team speed, being able to bring in guys, it just seemed like, all right, this guy's faster than that guy. Does that change anything, especially with the new offensive coordinator in Seth this year, about what maybe you guys look to attack schematically?
Yeah, I think every year is different, and I think that returning a quarterback first off helps because it was about week 5 and we were still trying to figure out the forward pass last year. So I think we're more versatile. We can do more things. Last year we didn't really need to be because we knew we were big, we knew we were physical. We would just pack it in, get tight splits, and run right at you. But I think at times we can do that, and we're trying to get better at doing that. But I think with where we're going with this offense this year, I think there's a few different little wrinkles that people will like.
Another guy on the offensive end, when Aiden sort of had that light bulb moment where he went on that big run and cerebral, doesn't make a ton of mistakes with the football, you were able to get Trey Moore, and kind of going back to the speed thing, a little bit more of creativity where you were able to use him in so many different ways. With that duo, I mean, with Dylan and Trey, do you guys have a lot of that kind of this year where you say, all right, we're just going to go speed on this play?
Yeah, we have a bunch of different backfield sets. We have a ton of running backs, first off. More than just think Trey. Schmidt is our guy in the middle, but he can move around as well. Compton's playing in the backfield this year as well. And we have a young guy in Chandler Smith who's a freshman who's going to be a stud. That's going to take some varsity reps week 1. So there's a lot of different body types, a lot of different kids. So like I said, you'll see us in a few more different sets. You'll see us in a few more different plays. But everything is what we want to do and how we want to do it. Some of it will look the same, but some of it will look a little different.
You've got a lot of coaches who are great with line, whether it be the offensive or the defensive side. You return just Xander Post really from that starting group last year, but you got size. Oscar Hernandez is a big kid. Hayden Gamble's a big kid. Keelan Baker, Matt Murray. How are you able to kind of put that group together this year and say, this is how you fit, now we're going to make this work?
First off, we converted first off, those are all great football players you just listed. But our spring, we actually converted over to a 2-day-a-week lifting and 2-day-a-week sprint training. So all those big guys were firing out of blocks. They were like joining the track team. They didn't even know it, but that's what we went to. And those guys are moving. Our big guys are moving better. Our somewhat bigger guys are moving better. So like we knew what we had. So we converted this thing over to a speed type thing this year. And we're hoping that it'll pay off in the end.
Which one of the coaches is winning those races if you line everybody up?
No, I'm winning every single one.
I mean, I don't know. I would have maybe put some money on the old man. He might still be able to move. That's what he tells me.
He's got a bum ankle, so he ain't ever again.
It's probably from chasing your kids around the field after games.
Yeah, some of that probably. I don't know what it is.
I got to believe from everything that I've seen and we've talked throughout the course of this summer, it seems like you guys are having a tremendous amount of fun right now as you learn and try to avoid the heat.
Yeah, I think that we're getting better. Like I said, we're a complete work in progress. But our kids are locked in. I mean, they want to win. They're hungry, which I'm having a lot of fun with these guys. But we have to win, all right, because winning is fun in football.
You've got one scrimmage under your belt as we talk about 10 days before the season. You've got another one coming up with a tremendous Fort Loramie team. How do you judge growth from one scrimmage to the other and then getting ready going into the Thursday before you head to Gallion?
I think you have to make sure that what happened last week that wasn't right is now fixed this week. That's how you judge growth each week. If the problems we had last week are still the problems this week, then we're not doing our job as coaches. But I think we're getting them fixed. I think we're on the right track, and I think we have kids that are locked in that, like I said, they want to play football. They want to win. We're a little young in some areas, but we're going to find a way to win.
A lot of interesting things put out about the Gallion game because obviously not a team you guys are familiar with. You get on the bus for a little bit to go up north. What kind of have you learned anything yet about Gallion kind of coming in about what to expect when you go there?
I know they only graduated 4 seniors off last year's team. I watched them play OG last year. They got beat by OG 14-7 in the playoffs, and we never match up very well with OG. So I know that they're going to be a well-coached, fundamentally sound program. We're going to have to make sure we're locked in, ready to play football from the minute we stop off the bus until the end of the game.
A lot of coaches tell me a lot about St. Mary's is a different kind of animal because they sort of have to shred their game plan for a week and kind of figure out what you guys do and what they're going to have to do. Do you think it's easier or harder for Galleon because they're able to kind of pick at that from the day they lost their postseason game last year to the time you get, or is it harder for just other teams that have to prepare 1 week by 1 week for what you do?
I think having the entire summer to prepare probably helps them quite a bit. But we're doing things a little different this year. I mean, we're not the same offense every single year. It may look similar, but there's different things, different wrinkles thrown in that every year. But I think, having a whole summer to prepare, but you're only allowed to hit so much. All right. And what we do is physical football. You can't play 7-on-7 against the wing T, you know what I mean? So, I think that yes and no. I think it'll help them somewhat that they get more time to prepare. And I do like where the game is going. As long as we can continue to get better at what we do and we believe in what we do here in St. Mary's, we are the old school Kenton, where people had to change their defenses to prepare to play us.
That'll be the only time I think that anyone ever refers to St. Mary's and Kenton being the same in the same sentence.
Well, I mean, it's where the game's gone. They're old school. Their offense 15 years ago used to be completely different than everybody else's, but now everybody's out in the spread, empty, 5 wide.
Well, and it's funny because I talked to Zach already, and he had nothing but glowing things to say about you guys, except for when he has to prep for you later in the season. How much with what you're saying of the offense isn't the same every year, of obviously switching up offensive coordinators, of you've joked that a lot of your staff, the younger guys, are video game guys. Maybe that you don't steal, but maybe you just kind of learn from something that maybe Seth has a different wrinkle on?
I think we have 5 offensive coaches that walk in this room with different ideas every day, and we play defense too. And our defensive guys come in someday and like, man, this is hard to stop. So we always are trying to throw in new wrinkles. We're always trying to find a way to get people off of us. But yeah, I think Seth is doing a great job first off, and but Seth is being guided to not go too far from me.
I think that might be the biggest compliment, though, that you can get, that your own defense, who knows the play and sees the play coming, is still saying, this is kind of hard.
Yeah, they know. They always say, I'm glad we don't ever have to play you guys. You know what I mean? Because, but the good part about it is that the way the game has gone, we can play some smaller guys on defense, and when the big guys get given to the offense anymore.
Meat grinder. That's generally how the WBL is put out every year. You guys do that where you kind of flip home and away, except for where you go to Wapak and OG back-to-back. You look at the WBL, everybody says Wapak, St. Mary's, and then everything else is kind of a crapshoot. Kind of how do you personally see with it what everybody has coming back and how you've been against the league the last couple of years, it going this year?
I'm going to be straight with you, Mike. This is going to be a tough one. I think everybody's got people. There's nobody in the league that doesn't really have people. So it'll be all how we play our cards each week on who really makes it in the end here. But, yes, Wapak returns a ton with Caleb, his son, coming back at quarterback for 4 years. It's always tough when you're playing a 4-year starter quarterback. And Bath returns darn near everybody. Celina should be better. I mean, the whole league will be better. We're just going to have to make sure we worried about ourselves first. I try to not spend too much time on everybody else, and I try to spend 99.9% of the time on us and what we can do better. And if we take care of ourselves, good things usually happen on Friday nights.
10-3 last year. Just the last month of the season between Bath and the 3 playoff games is an emotional roller coaster. 37-29, 28-24, 16-14, and then the loss with London. Did you kind of put that last month in a box yet and just kind of sit back and go, wow, those were games that were something?
Yeah, I did look back for about a week, and then I moved on to the next one. I mean, that's how coaches live their lives. We don't have time to sit and think about last year. We have to think about, daggone, I got to get this thing converted over to next year, or else we're not going to win a game. I think all the time you're happy with what you did last year. But when I retire from this thing, I'll look back and say, oh, that was a cool year, or that was a sweet year, and I'll look back at pictures and that sort of jazz. But there's not enough time in this thing anymore to sit and dwell on success or lack of success the year before.
Which, though, was a longer last 10 minutes of the game? The Miami Trace game with their turnover, you guys get the long play, you get the touchdown with Parker, or that last handful of sequence where Brady misses the extra point the next week at Tippecanoe, and then you have to come back, you have to make a stop, you have to get the football, and then kick the field goal?
For me, I was more disappointed and a little more nervous against the first round of playoff game where we hit the Hail Mary because we should have won that game by 21 points. The second week against Tip, man, that was all just riding high because we weren't even supposed to beat those guys. Everybody in the world picked us to lose by 40. So everything we were doing was just on pure adrenaline and just not caring. Like, you just got to go, so that one was that one. And then I think against London, we finally hit the wall, and our kids kind of we got an injury early to Dixon, and then they kind of sputtered out, So, but I'm proud of last year's group. I think we got everything we could out of them, but it's time to convert over to this year.
Well, I can tell you there are 4 people. Chase was doing the game with Denny, and my wife and I were sitting on the couch in Findlay listening to and watching that game after I got back from soccer. And when the extra point didn't go in, my wife turned and said, they're going to get a stop, kick a field goal to win, right?
Yeah, I said the same thing on the sidelines. I just knew. It was like God intervention or what it was. I just knew it was going to happen. So, but like I said, though, that was last year. You know what I mean? We have to move on to this year.
What are you most looking forward to this year?
I'm just excited for a new group of kids. I'm excited to see the growth. I'm seeing growth every day, and it's like, man, this is fun. You know what I mean? Last year's group, we were lined up every day. We knew what we had. We weren't trying to do too many different things. But this year, we're like, you know what? We got a new group of kids. It's a whole new team. And I'm really having fun just trying to put a team together to compete with all these guys.
I know last year is last year, but this year your seniors will be your second group as you've been the head coach that you've been able to take all the way through freshmen to seniors. Does that, you kind of look at that and just kind of laugh of, yeah, that's the cycle of that's kind of how this is going to go now?
Yeah, it goes fast, man. The fun part is, I had a lot of these, Owen Ott and Trey Moore. I had in junior high gym class. So, I'm like, man, you're much tougher in gym class than you are today. You know what I mean? So I'm able to joke with them. I know the kids very, very, very well. Really, I've got nephews that are on the team. I got more nephews coming. My family's involved in it now. So it's kind of neat. I'm very invested in every level of this program, from flag football to 7th grade to 8th grade. I'm going to roll out here tonight and watch our 7th grade scrimmage our 8th grade because I got a nephew out here on the team. So it's been kind of fun to see the progress of all these kids. I watch them grow up. I spend so much time with them. It's kind of neat to see everyone grow up except Trey Moore because he hasn't really gotten any taller since then.
I won't tell him he said that. It's fine. I can't wait until I hear, Uncle Bo, chill out.
Yeah, they do say that sometimes. Well, our backup kicker is my nephew, so I get to talk crap to him some days, and he's kicking in the scrimmages because Brady Triplets had soccer scrimmages on our scrimmage days, so he's been getting a lot of kicking, so I've been busting his chops a little bit when he's out there kicking.
Shouldn't you talk to somebody about that, about soccer?
I don't know. It's what it is. I'm okay with it. I'm just glad that Brady does both.
I have to ask you, I have my own opinion on this, and I've been telling people, presumably anyone that will listen, that the answer to this is yes, but Owen Ott is going to have a monster year.
I think Owen Ott's a very good football player. As long as Owen Ott continues to keep doing what we're coaching him to do and stay locked into the team, Owen Ott will have a monster year, yes.
That's all I needed. I can't wait to kick off the season in Gallion. I wish you more luck than I give any other coaches ever.
Hey, man, I appreciate you, Mike.
That's Bo Frye getting ready to kick off the season in Gallion next week. Everybody knows that Tony's in Ottawa is home of the Titan Burger. But did you know that this summer, Tony's is home to the Chicken Parm Sandwich, a delicious 7-ounce chicken patty covered in Dave Fratelli marinara sauce and Swiss cheese. If that's not enough and you're looking to cool down, beat the heat with Cyclones and soft-served ice cream. Check out Tony's on Facebook and at Tony'sOttawa.com. That's Tony's in Ottawa, 1702 East Main Street. Massive thank you to the coaches in the WBL who were a part of the show this week, and can't wait to kick off the season Friday night. First ever trip to Gallion to see the Tigers take on St. Mary's. You can hear that one on K94. And big thanks to Bo Frye. I love talking to Bo Frye, now in his 5th year as the head man, and he's always got an impressive beard. And there's always a lot of intrigue about his team. They're going to run the ball. I don't know if you know that, but they are. And again, a big thanks to them, and a well wishes to all of the teams who are getting their season started or are already underway. Go out, support high school sports. That's what it's all about anyways. And hit me up. Let me know who you would like to hear about, maybe what you'd like to hear him talk about. Have a great night and an even better tomorrow.
We hope you've enjoyed this edition of Around the Hearn. Come back next week for more local stories from the NWO. But until then, be sure to follow us on Twitter at Michael Hearn PBP for more great area content.